Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is currently 10:08 p.m. Oh, 10:09, it just changed. 10:09 p.m. on this beautiful, still, calm Tuesday evening. 67 degrees outside. I was just listening to little Amy Winehouse, Someone to Watch Over Me. Alex is watching TV with the dogs. Was supposed to go to my meeting tonight, but two of our friends weren't going, and then they had other things they had to do tonight, and then Tanya ended up having to work late, so she texted me kind of at the last minute, and she was like, I think I'm gonna stay home. So I was like, all right. And I was uploading videos anyway and doing laundry. So I was like, I'm just gonna stay home tonight. So I stayed home. I have my coffee. I have tea that I reviewed in my review video today. And I also have my hat and a Diet Coke right here. And I was supposed to meet Valerie at the casino. She's gonna text me when she leaves. So, we're gonna, I haven't seen Valerie in a couple weeks. So we are going to meet up at the casino tonight, which will be fun. I've been listening to a lot of The House of Gucci today, because it's the book for a true crime book club for September, but our live stream is this Sunday, so I need to finish it in time for the live stream. I have to tell you, it's rather interesting to me. Mel didn't say that she didn't like it. She just said it was like not really a true crime book, that it goes into the history and talks a lot about, I turned the heat on to defrost my windshield, and now it's like really hot in here because I have the heat up to like 75 or something. Hold on a second, 74. Put it down. I actually just gonna turn it off. I don't even need it. It's so nice out tonight. And Mel was like, you know, if you're real interested in like the history of fashion and things like that, then it would probably be interesting to you. So I didn't really know what to expect, and honestly, like I was so into reading cozy mysteries lately. I just got out of the shower. That I wasn't really excited to read this book. I just was like, I would rather go on and read 4 more cozy mysteries. And it's long. It's 16 hours and 20 minutes. I'm about 3 hours into it right now, and I have to say, it is really interesting. You know, especially as somebody that wanted to go into fashion, and that was kind of my dream in high school. To hear the building of a fashion house, and they go in and they talk about, I mean, the beginning of it is talking about the family and Guccio Gucci, who was the founder of the House of Gucci. I mean, they didn't call it the House of Gucci back then, but he was the founder of the family. He was the first one, and it's interesting when you go in there, and there's like all this history that says that the Guccis came from like, they were like horse people, that they rode horses, and that's why there's a lot of like saddlebags and like riding boots and things like that are like in the whole like Gucci fashion house. But that's actually inaccurate, and that was a rumor that got started, and they kind of allowed at some point to perpetuate itself because it like worked to its advantage. Well, some of them did, not all of them. But he was actually a dishwasher, and he worked in a lot of hotels, and he would see like rich and famous people traveling through Europe carrying these expensive suitcases and trunks and things like that. And so he became kind of interested in this whole idea of making leather goods, and that was how he started. And actually when he started, like their very first store that they had was in Milan next to Salvatore Ferragamo and Bulgari, which is really, when you think about it, like in terms of like fashion, you know, here are these 3 major fashion icons, you know, and they're like working side by side each other. It's super interesting. But then it goes in and it talks about his sons, and I think he had 3 sons. There's so many names in the book that it's kind of hard to keep track of the names, but I think he had 3 sons, and the 3 sons all got involved. Well, the 2 sons got involved in the business, and the 3rd son wanted to be a movie star, of which he was for a while. But then after the war, the movie industry kind of changed, and so he wasn't getting the same kind of roles he was getting, so he came back to his dad, and he asked his dad if he could work for Gucci again, and his dad said yes, because his dad wanted all of the kids to work for Gucci. Like when a baby would be born, this is a supposed rumor, he would have them smell a piece of their leather, and he would say, this is the smell of your success, or your future, or something like that. And then there was Aldo Gucci, who, he kind of like was the one that got the expansion of Gucci going. Like there's a whole discussion about that that's really interesting. Gucci did not want to expand. He didn't believe that they should go anywhere but just Milan and have their store there. And he was the one that wanted to go to like Rome and then like Paris and London. And he was the one that opened all the stores. And he eventually went to New York City and opened the New York flagship store and got the store on 5th Avenue and stuff like that. And that's where he had like this dream of being there. He was kind of flashy. And his dad was so upset with him, but like I think it was like 2 months before Gucci died, he got to see the New York store, and he was so proud of the fact that, you know, he had been a dishwasher that built up his company to be $1 million company that was on 2 continents. So it was really kind of a cool, it's really kind of a cool story. And then the one that was the movie star, he wasn't really a movie star, but he was a well-known actor, and he did like silent films, and then he started doing talkies. He had a son with this other movie star, and that son was Mauricio Gucci, who the movie is going to be about. And his wife is his first wife is Patricia, who Lady Gaga plays in the movie. And I'm like at the part where they have just gotten married, and she's very demanding. She wants the best of the best. And so they've moved to New York City, and they put them in like a 3rd-rate hotel, and the next day she moves to a suite at the St. Regis. And then she wants this penthouse suite, and she says to Mauricio, her husband, she says, I want this suite. And he says, I'm not going to ask my dad for it. Because they're all like afraid of the dad, right? Of whoever it is at the time. And the brothers like work very close together. Oh, there was also this rule that no woman will ever run the house of Gucci, which is really interesting. That's what one of the rules that Gucci wanted from the very beginning. I don't know if that's changed now. But there was one original sister, and she wasn't really left a whole lot. I think she was left shares in the company, because later they come out and they say that her shares were worth more than what they got or something like that. But she got like a house in the country, but she was like really upset. She thought that her brothers would stand together for her, and they didn't. And so I think her name might have been Agatha, I'm not sure, but she was just kind of like pushed out of any of the business to do with the house of Gucci. So anyway, Patricia says that if he's not willing to go to his dad, then she'll go to his dad and ask for the suite. And she goes to the dad, and he says, you're trying to ruin me. But two months later, she got her suite. And then she drives all over New York City in she's driven around in this car that says Maurizio on the license plate, like this personalized license plate. And then it said, and this is the part that I just ended at, it said that in an interview one time, she was quoted as saying, I'd rather be weeping in the back of a I'd rather be weeping in the back of a Rolls Royce than happy on a bicycle or something like that. Like, she's just all about the money. And that's what the book is supposed to be about, that she supposedly hires a hitman because Mauricio's spending his money so quickly. But when the book starts, it starts with the murder. And Mauricio is dating this, he either is dating or has this wife that's like this younger woman, and she's like model-esque and blonde and stuff like that. So anyway, I don't know how that fits into all of that, but that's where it's going from now. But it's interesting, like, how all the kids kind of factor into it, and they all become like part of the company. And like, they're all super, super involved. In fact, I think it's Aldo is the one that, okay, so Aldo Gucci has like all these mistresses, and like he has them put up in like houses and stuff like all over the place. And but he works like nonstop, and he eventually buys a house because they open a store in Palm Beach, and he eventually buys a house, like a beachfront property, a beachfront mansion in Palm Beach. But he never, like, even when he's like in Palm Beach, he like goes into the office on like a Saturday or a Sunday. I mean, just hearing like the workings of how the company got started and all that kind of stuff is really interesting. And then the background to all of that is they talk about like famous pieces, like the bamboo purse. They talk about like Grace Kelly coming in, and Grace Kelly was like, I want a scarf. And they're like, well, what kind of scarf do you want? And she's like, I want something that has flowers all over it. And she supposedly made this one scarf super famous, that it was like a print that that I think Gucci came up with. And then it talks about how like the celebrities started wearing their stuff, and how like if you were carrying a Gucci purse back then, like that meant that you had really high taste. And because it was like the best of the best. And it talks about like why they used wood and they used other products, because during the war, which like Gucci is known for using like wood in their shoes and stuff like that, why at the time there were a lot of like leather was scarce, and there were other things that were scarce, and they were being used for like combat and marching boots. And he actually opened his factory to making boots for the Italian army, because he had to stay in business somehow. And Ferragamo did that too. But then, because of that, it forced them to create some of their most incredible designs during that period, because they were just making these shoes that like were so boring that it forced them to make some of their most interesting shoes, because they made them out of products that you wouldn't normally expect. Which is interesting if you watch Project Runway, and Project Runway always has an unconventional or unconventional material challenge, which when you think about it from that point of view, it's like, okay, here is Salvatore Ferragamo, Gucci, and they're trying to keep their businesses alive, right? Because they're going to go under because of the war. Like, they can't afford to keep their business. Nobody's buying their luxury products, right? And so they open their factories to make these combat boots, these marching boots for the military. But at that time, to make the designer shoes that they want to keep on making, Ferragamo, they talk more about at this part. They talk about how he used, oh shoot, I can't remember what it was. Something that came on a candy wrapper, which is crazy. And that he still uses that. Well, he doesn't, but they still use that in their shoes today. And they're like really well known for this. It's something to do with a candy wrapper. Like the cellophane on a candy wrapper. And that they just had to use whatever products they had, you know? So it's interesting, you know, when you go back and you hear all this and you see it from a business point of view, and them really trying to like keep their business going and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know that I'm going to enjoy 16 hours and 20 minutes of it, but it seems to be going pretty quickly. I honestly thought that I'd just be like, oh, I'm so bored with this, but I'm not. Like, I'm very interested in it. But it does very much feel like taking like an art history class. Like, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit from back in the day, of which I took some and enjoyed them. But it reminds me of reading about like famous artists and things like that. But it does get into kind of some of the scandal of the family, and you know, I think almost all of the husbands have like cheated on their wives and had mistresses and all this kind of stuff. When Mauricio wants to marry Patricia, who Lady Gaga plays, his father disowns him at first and goes to this priest and everything saying like, I'm gonna lose my son. And her father, like, who is like this not a shipping guy, he like trucks, he owns like, you know, trucks that what do you call it, like take stuff all over the country. And so he's wealthy too. He's not like Gucci wealthy, but he's wealthy. And he's like more than willing to like welcome Mauricio into the family. Anyway, it's just this really interesting, it's really interesting story of how it like gets there. And so yeah, even if you're not reading it for a true crime book club and you're interested in fashion whatsoever, I would recommend it. There are books that are similar to this on Cartier and Louis Vuitton, and I'm thinking about maybe like reading those at some point too. It's interesting, like liking those products and, you know, liking a Gucci bag or whatever, or belt, and then like knowing the history of like what got there. I mean, it talks even about how like the double G's started, which I think was in 1970. Before then, they had a diamond print that they used, and then they started the double G's in 1970, and it was kind of an idea that came a little bit from Louis Vuitton, I think is what he said. They referenced Louis Vuitton at that part in there, and it was actually in their Beverly Hills store was the very first place that they ever they released that product, and it was on a dress, and it was also on the inside. It was on this material that was on the inside of a bag, I think. I don't know, it's just real interesting to listen to. And then when I'm done with that, I don't know what I'm going to read. I don't know if I'm going to read another cozy mystery, if I'm going to read one of my books for October for Peter's Book Club. I don't know if I'll turn around and go read Behind the Horror. I probably won't read that because our book club's not for, that book club won't be for another month, so anyway, today I got up and just kind of got ready real quick today, actually, and got out of the house, and I went and got coffee at Starbucks, and I was reading this article on totallythebomb.com that had sugar-free drinks. So I reviewed this sugar-free tea. It was supposed to be peppermint tea with two vanilla or sugar-free vanilla syrups in it, but they didn't have peppermint tea, so this is just some kind of mint tea. It's still very good, even though it's cold now, but it tastes good, strong. I really like it. It tastes kind of like a peppermint candy. I don't really know how to explain it other than that, like a peppermint, like after dinner mint. Not the ones that have chocolate in it, but oh, then after that, then what? Then after that, I went to Five Below, and I did a video for my Peter Does Stuff channel, walking around Five Below, which was really fun. It was a long video. I was there for like 27 minutes, walking around the store. I thought it was going to be long, but I didn't think it was going to be that long, and so then I did that. Then Alex got off work early today. He was home really early. So I came home and I talked to him for a little bit and hung out with him. And then he was doing some work upstairs, and he was like, I'll just go upstairs and do some work in the bedroom. So he was doing some work on some stuff that he had to do on the computer. And he had the dogs up there with him. So I filmed a drama video and a Peter Business video. And then I was getting all that stuff up, and then I was getting ready to go start getting, I was doing laundry on top of that, and I was getting ready to go start getting ready, and that's when Tanya Jean texted me and said that she was just going to stay home, and I was like, all right. So I already knew that our other two friends weren't going, so I was like, I'll just stay home, which was nice because I kind of like wound down, and I sat on the front porch for a little bit, and did some other stuff around the house and cleaned up the kitchen a little bit and put some stuff away. And then I went upstairs and talked to Alex for a little bit. And then I laid down for like 45 minutes. At that point, Valerie and I had made plans to go. Well, we weren't going to because I had my meeting tonight and she wanted to go earlier, which we didn't end up going earlier anyway. But we weren't going to go tonight because I had my meeting and stuff and I knew I wouldn't get home till like 10:30 or whatnot. And so then when Tanya said she didn't want to go, I texted Valerie and I said, well, I can go earlier if you want to go. And earlier meaning before midnight. And so she was like, okay. So that's when we made plans and I wanted to lay down for just a little bit. So I laid down for about 45 minutes. I mean to tell you, like in that 45 minutes, I was out, you guys. Like I fell asleep so deep. I mean, deeper than I have fallen asleep in a long time. And, I mean, I sleep every night, right? But like, I was deep asleep in that 45 minutes. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, where am I? What time was it? That's how I woke up. But I woke up. Like, I mean, woke up. I woke up and I was like up. And, I went and took a shower. They have these food trucks all over here late at night now. Who was calling me? Oh, that's Valerie calling me right now. Let me get off here and I will be right back. All right. She was getting ready. So she said she's gonna leave in about 10 or 15 minutes. So just look at the time. Anyway, what else? Yeah, so I took a shower and I use like different shampoo and conditioner tonight because I've been using that Oribe all the time and I want to kind of like save it. I don't want to use it every day. So I used the Bumble and Bumble shampoo and conditioner, which I absolutely love. And it smells so good. And then I just, I didn't use any shower gel. I used to use bar soap tonight. And then I used this like new lotion that I got. It smells really good. It's like honey scented. And I sprayed on the Louis Vuitton cologne that my husband got me. And put on some fresh clothes that just came out. Black t-shirt, black shorts, black Birkenstocks. It's real exciting over here. I put on my new clothes that just came out of the washer and the dryer. I mean, washer and dryer. And yeah, and now I'm vlogging. And then I'm gonna vlog for just a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna turn around and head up to the casino to meet Valerie, and I'm gonna listen to the Gucci on the way up there. Oh, I know what else I was gonna say. Yesterday, I listened to like, well, I think there's only 8 episodes total, and I think I'm on episode 4 or 5 of The Orange Tree. You guys, this documentary, or this true crime podcast is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I'm not even like, well, maybe I'm further than that. Maybe I'm in the 6th one. They're short. The episodes are like between 30 and 40 minutes. And I listened to, last night I listened to, I don't know, like, I think I'm like on the 4th or 5th one. And I could pull over here and tell you, but I'm not going to. So it's about this case of Jennifer Cave. And it happened, I think, in 2005 in Austin, Texas. And do you guys know about this case? Okay, so she was friends with this guy that was like seriously had serious substance abuse issues, like drugs, alcohol, whatever. And she was trying to help him because she had been kind of like part of that life too, and then she had gotten away from it, and she had just gotten like a new job that she was supposed to start the new day at a law firm, and she was really excited. And oh, by the way, I started Welcome to Plathville tonight. I'll talk about that in just a second. And so her parents like can't get a hold of her. Her mom and her stepdad can't get a hold of her. And so they come down to Austin, and her dad goes, they finally find her car at this guy's condo. And he's a business student at University of Austin, and they've been friends for a while. And he's supposedly like this really like nice guy, right? But he's had a lot of drug problems. And so he It's called the Orange Tree because that's the name of the condos that it happens at. So they go in, the stepdad goes in, the mom and the sister don't go in. The sister comes there with him, she lives in Dallas. The stepdad goes in and he finds her body in the bathroom, and has no head, and they've cut her hands off. Like she was shot in the chest. You guys, it is so grotesque listening to this podcast, but they do it, well, it's interesting. So the girls that are hosting it are like college students, and they talk about that, and it's a sponsored podcast, and it's very well done. It's done with NPR in Texas, or Austin, Texas, and it's done through the school, through the podcasting program at the college they go to. They go to the University of Texas in Austin, which is why they chose this topic, because they've heard so much about it. And they talk about being really sensitive to the victim in there. But as somebody that has read a lot of true crime and has a true crime book club, let me just tell you that my perspective, my observation, and it's whatever, you know, they did the best they could, but they almost are like, because they said it's important that we paint a picture of the victim as being a human being, not just as a victim. And that so many of these they kind of like put down true crime podcasts, and they're like, so many true crime podcasts just focus on the victim after they've died and not really tell you much more about the person. Okay, I felt like I knew more about Tom Brown from Tom Brown's Body when they didn't even really focus on him that much in the podcast than I did learn about Jennifer Cave in this podcast. I was kind of surprised. And in fact, they almost paint a nicer picture of this Colton kid that's the killer. They go and they talk to his friend from high school, and they talk to his parents, and he's not that kind of kid. And they talk about him going to, you know, like this all-boys Catholic school, and that he wanted to be like, go into business and college and whatever. And then they kind of lightly paint over the whole substance abuse thing. I think if anything, this should be a lesson of what substance abuse can do to people. I actually think that's the teaching lesson, because I have to say that what scared me the most about listening to this podcast was, and maybe they do later in the podcast, I'm not done with it yet. I'm at the part where the second person's trial is about to happen. I just finished with his trial. But they don't address blackouts. They don't, and you know, it is what it is, but it is a podcast, you know? And I think the thing is, as a blackout drinker and drug addict, one of the scariest things would be waking up and not knowing what you had done the previous day. And he literally, if what he is saying is true, he has no recollection of killing this girl whatsoever. This girl was a friend of his. They had been out the night before. And he was like horribly drunk to the point where he was like urinating on the car, and he had lost his phone. I mean, he was belligerent. He was probably blacked out drunk. You know, and a blackout, and this is important to know, is when you continue to keep on functioning, but you have no memory of it, right? And that was what was so scary to me listening to this. I was like, but for the grace of God, you know, like that never happened to me. I mean, who's to say that in a blackout I wouldn't have stabbed one of my friends or something? You know what I mean? Like, I got into arguments and fights with friends of mine when I was drinking and using. Not like that kind of fight, but like I did get into fights. You know, I mean, is it out of the realm to think that he picked up a gun in a blackout and shot his friend because she said something to him, or they were playing a game and then he panicked in the blackout and didn't know what to do and put her body into the bathtub? Yes. What's weird, okay, and they don't really address that, but he does take full responsibility for doing it. He says he doesn't remember doing it, but that he knows he had to have done it because there's no other explanation for it. What's really weird about this whole story is he has this girl that is like beyond obsessed with him, and her name is Laura Hall, and she's obsessed with him. And he calls her and is like, they're just like, he tells her to come over, and then when he finds the body, he calls her and says, don't come over. And she comes over anyway, and she goes, what are we gonna do? Then she makes this list, supposedly, of all of these things that he needs to go to the hardware store to buy, which is basically how to get rid of a body ingredients, okay? The guy at the store even says, what do you need these things for? He didn't make the list, she made the list, and it's like, those, you know, plastic they were going to cut up the body is what they're going to do and get rid of it. And so they asked him on the stand. He said, I didn't touch her. I didn't touch her. So this girl who is obsessed with him, out of her obsession for him, she starts cutting apart this body. Then says, we need to run. So they're going to run to another town and get a hotel room. And she says, no, I think we should go to Mexico. Then they go to Mexico, and she's emailing all these people just telling them to get rid of her stuff. Like she's Bonnie and Clyde and she's not coming back or something. And she's not worried about it at all, except for they don't know what to do because they don't have any more money. And so they're at this guy's house in Mexico that's like the manager of this hotel, which that whole part of the story was weird to me anyway, because I was like, how do you end up? The manager's like, oh, they wanted to watch this game, some game or fight or something. So he invited them over. They were at the Casablanca Hotel somewhere in Mexico. So the manager invites them over to his house. Then he puts 2 and 2 together because this Colton guy is asking this manager about extradition rights in Mexico. And he's like, all of a sudden it occurred to me that maybe they were in some trouble in the United States, you think? So then they're Colton and this Laura girl have this sombrero on their head, this kid's sombrero, and they fall over into this, I think his name is Fernando's son's playpen, and they're like in the playpen with the sombrero on, and this Fernando guy takes a picture of him and sends it to the police. Well, that picture goes on every major newspaper. That they're down in Mexico having the time of their life, living it up, while this girl has been killed and her head has been cut off and her hands. And it's so treacherous when you listen to this. It's so sad. One of the hardest things for me listening to it was that at the sentencing hearing, they allowed her mother to speak, but then his mother spoke too, and she was like literally inconsolable. Like, and she apologized to the mother, but she was just like, this is not my, I mean, I don't know how you would reconcile, you know, like, my kid did this. She's like, he's not this monster, and she's like sobbing and bawling the whole time. So the next one that I'm listening to, the next episode, is the girl's trial. Which, by the way, when she came back, after he had been he got arrested when he was extradited back to the United States, and she was brought back with him, but they didn't know her involvement at that point, so they arrested him, but they let her go, and she was supposed to go to a concert that night. Now, hold on a second. You just cut apart a body less than a week ago, okay? And the guy that you're obsessed with is sitting in jail for killing this girl, okay? But you're gonna go to a concert with friends of yours, but she can't get into this concert because they're sold out, so she can't get a ticket. So instead, while her friends are at this concert, she goes to a tattoo parlor, and she gets his name tattooed on her ankle in cursive curly writing. Colton on her ankle. Colton or Colton Forever or something like that. Colton, I think. You guys, it's so bizarre. I'm just like, it's like that song, So Bizarre. So Bizarre. Do you remember that song from back in the day? I just really can't wrap my head around it, and it's so tragically sad. I wish the episodes were a little bit longer, but the girls that are doing it are doing a really great job. You know, I think this is the thing. In any presentation of true crime, it is really difficult for the book author or the podcaster or the YouTuber or whoever, right, to pay appropriate homage to the victim. Because really what people are there to hear is about the gruesomeness of the details of what happened. Let's just be for real, right? They're interested in the case. Like, they're interested in everything that just happened. I do think that paying a certain amount of homage to the victim and their families, and what you can do, and a way to do that, which they do in this, is by having sisters speak, family speak. How did you feel going through this? What was this like? Like, the mother and the stepfather are so fantastic on this podcast, and, you know, I mean, I think that's a way to pay homage. and I know that, like, you want to give a cohesive podcast, but maybe not allow the parents of the killer to have as much time in the podcast, if not more, than the parents of the victim. Like, that would be one way to pay homage to that, and it's like little things like that I think, like, people don't think about. Like, when I read I Am God about the DC shooter, like, that was an Audible original. You guys, that, and also, Evil Has a Name by Paul Holes. Both of those books at the end, well, first of all, through the entire book, you got to hear from the victims themselves or families of the victims of how they were affected, right? But even more than that, what was so fantastic about how they did it was at the end, the victims were the ones that got to wrap up the story. The families of the victims, sort of the survivors, or the victims that didn't make it, the families were the ones that got to tell the stories, tell what had happened at the end. And so it ended on the note that it was so heavily layered with that. I mean, in all honesty, like, and I understand that they're trying to get a comprehensive podcast, but then maybe not say that, like they say at the beginning of every episode, that they're really trying to focus on. I probably wouldn't say anything about this at all if they had not brought it up in the podcast, that they really want to pay homage to the victim. They interview him. You get to hear him speak from jail on the podcast, which, okay, that's fine, right? But she doesn't have a voice anymore. She's dead. So we've now given a voice to the killer to understand the story more in context, yes. But I just think it's, it's all just in how it comes across as the listener. But I will say it's very... And they don't include very much of the interview. Like, that's the other thing. They interview him for an hour, and they ask him some questions, but, like, you basically get, like, 2 or 3 sentences of the interview. Like, I would have made a whole episode the interview. Like, the whole episode would have been our interview with the killer, or our interview with the parents, or... I don't know. It's such a sad case. Like, when I was listening to it, I just kept on thinking to myself, like, this is a really sad story of just things going horribly wrong. I truly believe, listening to the podcast so far, and maybe I'm wrong, outside of the girl that's like the obsessive stalker girl, who he doesn't even really have anything nice to say about when they interview him from jail, but outside of that, like, he was a kid that was using heroin, methamphetamines, Adderall, other kinds of speed, on and on and on, smoking weed, drinking super heavily, right? Probably blackout drinker, but probably doesn't remember much of what was going on. He talks about Xanax and drinking on there. He was drinking and using Xanax together, which will throw you in a blackout that quick. And, he was a pretty good kid that I think was an addict, probably substance abuser, definitely, and he was a dealer. They talk about him being a drug dealer in there. Some of it, though, is interesting to me because they're like he kind of plays off like, oh, I was the middleman. And I mean, he was a dealer on a college campus. Like, that's a pretty big deal. If you know anything about drugs and alcohol, like, to be a guy that can get things like heroin on a college campus for anybody that you want, like, that quick, and he makes a phone call and has it that quick, you're a pretty big dealer. And he was like, oh, I wasn't way over my head, but I was, like, dealing with some, like, serious criminals and stuff like that. He kind of, like, plays it down a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. You were probably a bigger deal of a dealer than you want to admit that you were. And he also, then later, they kind of slip in that he had a cocaine charge that he got arrested for, and his dad got him out of. The parents also hire this super big deal attorney in Texas. His name is Mitten, something Mitten. He's Mittens or Mitten. He's like the attorney that you go to like get out of anything kind of deal. He's like some big deal. Anyway, I don't know. But it's just a sad story of this nice girl that was trying to pull her life together, that had a family that loved her and adored her, and she had a lot of friends that cared about her. And, she had made some poor choices in her life as well, and I think that's why she related to him. They talked a lot about how she kind of collected stray dogs and, you know, would take care of like stray friends and tried to help them and stuff. And I think to some degree she was kind of a stray dog a little bit, and that, you know, they don't like to focus a lot of attention on that because they say that they don't want to blame her for like that being the reason why. Well, of course, no, it's not that at all. But like, I think it's important to the discussion, you know, when they did the toxicology report on her, I mean, she had methamphetamines, Adderall, marijuana, and alcohol in her system. Okay, that's not, she of course does not, they say in there, well, we don't want to like focus on this because this doesn't mean that she deserved it. Of course she didn't deserve it, right? But I think like what you have here is a situation where people are regularly using substances that are warping their brains. Like a couple people referred to him as like his brain was warped on drugs, you know? I mean, what would have to get you to the point where you could kill your friend? Like, that's sad, right? And so the whole thing, this car is like wanting to keep up with me, and I'm like, can you just pass me by? Because you're so loud. And I'm like, the story is so incredibly sad, right? This is what happens with drugs and alcohol. And you know, the reality is, honestly, like if this wasn't two, you know, white college students in Austin, Texas, if this was just like in the middle of nowhere and it was two drug addicts that one had shot the other one and they had died and the other person had fled, we wouldn't be hearing about it in a podcast, you know? I mean, that's just the reality. That stuff happens all the time. I hear about that kind of stuff all the time from friends of mine at meetings. Oh, did you hear so-and-so? Like, yeah, you know, like he went back out and that night he got shot and killed, you know? I mean, it happens all the time. And I just wish they would have focused a little bit more attention on the drugs. I think they were afraid to do that because they didn't want it to seem like they were blaming her using drugs on, like, the reason that she was, like, you know, like saying, like, if she hadn't been using it, wouldn't have been happened. She didn't deserve it. No, I don't care. Like, the drugs had nothing to do with her, and nobody deserves to be treated that way, period, end of story, right? But I think it's important to talk about cultures of addiction, and it's important to talk about, you know, that scary things happen when people are using drugs and alcohol, and we need to be having that conversation, you know? I've had friends of mine shot point blank in the face, killed. I've had that happen to friends of mine, you know? My drug dealer back in the day would sit in a room with his friends, and I was, you know, jonesing so bad that I would go over to his house begging for it, and he would make me simulate oral sex on a gun, loaded gun, and I didn't think anything about it, you know? So I think it's important to talk about the facts as they are. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents, but let's turn around right here, I think. I'm gonna see if Valerie has texted me that she's left yet. But yeah, that's a really good podcast. But I got real heated listening to it, you guys, because it just is, the story makes me so sad because it never had to happen. It never had to happen, you know? I mean, and I think in listening to a lot of true crime books and reading a lot of true crime books and watching, you know, Stephanie Harlow and all these people, you know, Kendall Ray talk about like these, you know, serial killers and all this kind of stuff. Okay, there's some really sick people out there, but this wasn't that. This was, I mean, he doesn't even, I don't know. Did she text me? I think my husband texted me. Alright, she hasn't texted me yet. She probably just left and didn't text, so I'll head up there anyway. Now I'm so heated talking about this podcast that I'm like, should I listen to the House of Gucci or should I listen to this podcast? I don't know. I still have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to finish Gucci. I might want to listen to the Orange Tree tonight and finish it, you know? Oh my God, I just stopped and the battery is dying. Oh my Lord. Let me pull over here. Hold on a second. I knew this was going to be a shorter vlog tonight, but I didn't want it to be this short. Dream, 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 dream. I've been singing like all day today. Do you ever do that? Okay. What is my husband texting me? Okay, I am going to change this and then I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I feel like I've talked about, I just pulled through the Wendy's parking lot. I feel like I've talked about Wendy's so many times the last couple days that like, I don't know why I'm having this like craving for fast food lately. I don't know what that's about, but I have been. I've been craving fast food. Somebody gave me a suggestion, which is a lot of work, but I really appreciate the suggestion. I might think about it. But they said, go to Burger King, get 2 Impossible burgers, go to McDonald's, get a vegetarian Big Mac. Here's my thing, and then like make your own Big Mac out of it and get my apple pie and my fries, which, so my thing is, I think that fries at McDonald's are not vegetarian, by the way. I'm almost positive of that. But the thing is, shoot, now my windshield is, oh no, I got it on high air. I don't need that. The thing is this, shoot, now my windshield is like fogging up again. Okay, the thing is that, the thing is, I don't know. Oh, the thing is that I'm not sure that if I go to McDonald's and I order a vegetarian Big Mac or a Big Mac without the meat, that they'll really know what I'm talking about. Like, I think they'll be like, what? Like, what do you want? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think they'll be like weird about it or something. Like, that's my, I know that sounds stupid, like that's your fear. It's not my fear, but it's like, I'm kind of like, okay, they'll probably be like, well, what is it you're wanting? Like, I don't understand. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they'll be like, who cares? They'll probably be like, who cares? So, I should try that. Maybe I'll try it for a review video, and I'll do that. It also seems incredibly messy to me. There's something about the meat, which is probably not like authentic, really good meat for you from McDonald's, that tastes different than I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that are like, it's interesting when I talk to vegetarians and they're like, a lot of people will say the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger does not taste like meat to them. I'm like, really? Because and maybe it's because I haven't been a vegetarian for as long as some other people have been, but like I got these plant-based chicken tenders tonight. They did not taste like meat. There was nothing, I mean, they looked like chicken tenders. They looked like flat chicken tenders that you get at like Applebee's or something, but they did not taste like chicken tenders to me. There was, I don't know what they tasted like, but they tasted like freezer burn and stale plants or something. I don't know. They just didn't taste good. Morningstar is one of the only brands that they're like corn dogs, they're sausage links, they're sausage patties, all of their chicken nuggets. I just had some chicken nuggets tonight too. Like, taste good. Like, they taste like authentic chicken to me. The rest of it doesn't taste that way to me. It tastes fake. Like any of the other brands I get, except for like Beyond Meat, which for me is hard to find unless I go to like Oh my gosh, look, they've got all this kind of like spooky ghost stuff out over here. Let me show you. I'm gonna stop, hold on. Look. How fun is that? Ooh. Look at that. Can you guys see it? I love it. Which, okay. Unless I go to like Whole Foods or I go to, what do you call it? Like Trader Joe's. Not Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's actually, like they have more vegan stuff than I mean, it's all the same, you know, 6 of one, half dozen the other, but they have more vegan stuff than vegetarian stuff. But they don't have like a lot of like, it's not as big of a store, right? So like, Fresh Thyme, I love. Fresh Thyme has quite a few different options. So I do love Fresh Thyme for looking for stuff like that. But like, if you're looking for like a vegetarian like a hamburger patty, they might have like 4 different kinds, and that's it, you know? But I think that's actually where I got the ones that I had for 4th of July, or was that Melissa and Jason got those? I don't remember. Caroline, for Memorial Day weekend, she had got the Beyond Burger or whatever it was. She had gone to the deli, and she had asked the guy in the deli, like, which one do you recommend? And he recommended some kind, and whatever she got, you know, tasted 100% like a real burger on the grill. I couldn't believe it. It was so good. And, you know, Mike was nice enough to cook it on like aluminum foil on top of the stove in a separate area from everything else. And, I was so excited because I hadn't had like a burger on the grill in forever, right? And then Jason did the same thing with fake brats and fake burgers. And I just was in 7th heaven because I love brats and burgers, you know? And so I was able to have that. I don't know, there's a lot of vegetarians, like this is the one thing I don't understand, right? Is that there's a lot of vegetarians that look down on people that like to eat like meat substitutes or fake meat. Like they look down on you if you eat like Morningstar chicken nuggets. Why? Like I don't understand that. You're still not eating meat. So does it bother you that somebody's eating something that reminds them of something that they had from their past? Or like what is it? Like I don't understand. But I've met a few vegetarians that are, do you know how I was saying the other day, and I love that somebody commented on my video and said that they had been a vegetarian for 35 years and their family, kids, and husband were all like meat eaters and they never lectured to them, but they all ate her vegan cooking and stuff like that. I loved that story because I hear that story a lot. But you know what I will tell you is interesting is that I almost hear more preachiness from other vegetarians or vegans to other vegetarians and vegans than I do from vegetarians or vegans to non-vegetarians and vegans. Like, it's almost kind of like it's a competition thing sometimes. Like, I don't do that. But, like, I'll meet somebody and they'll be like, oh, you're a vegetarian? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why aren't you vegan? And I'm like, it's just a choice that I made that I didn't want to be vegan, you know? And I like dairy too much right now. Have you watched the movies on dairy? Yes, I've watched them all. Have you watched, so you know about yes, I know about the dairy industry. So you've ruled out being a vegan? No, I didn't say that. I might one day be a vegan. It's not a choice that I'm making right now in my life. Okay, so, but you do know, and I'm like, God, like, let me live my life. You know what I mean? It's just like, give me a break. And then I'm like, how long have you been a vegan for? 3 months, but I'm like really hardcore. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you see them 6 months later and they're eating a cheeseburger in a restaurant. I'm like, well, that lasted a long time. But you wanted to lecture for the 3 months that you were a vegan, you know? I will tell you, this is a true story. The people that have been vegans and vegetarians the longest, like, I mean, I have met some people that have been vegetarian like their entire life. Like their parents were vegetarians and they were raised vegetarian and on and on and on. I have met some people that have been vegetarians 30, 40 plus years, right? Are the least preachy people about it because they have learned like live and let live, you know, do what you're just gonna make you happy and on and on and on. So I don't know, but I can tell you if meat substitutes are what you're looking for, I can tell you what does taste like real. A lot of people around here decorated for Halloween. They've got all kinds of ghosties and stuff there too, and purple and orange lights. I love it. But I can tell you what things taste real and which ones don't. And I also am not a big lover of black bean burgers. I just don't. Or tofu. Black bean burgers and tofu, if I never had them again, I'd be completely fine. Like every once in a while, like I keep black bean burgers at home because if I'm wanting something kind of solid, for a long time, before, you know, you had, well, the first time that I was a vegetarian, I used to get these Morningstar, they were called quarter prime burgers, and they were really thick. And they had like 18 or 20 ounces of protein in them. And I would cook those up in the microwave, and I would put a piece of cheese on them on a bun, and I would eat 2 of those for my dinner. This was when I was like healthier and working out and stuff. And, but I really liked those. And I think they still make those. Maybe they're not called quarter prime. I don't know, they're like a thicker burger than the rest. But, you know, back then, there really wasn't a whole lot except for 5 different kinds of black bean burgers. And so I would eat black bean burgers, and maybe that's what it was, but like now, when I get to like a fancy restaurant, sometimes like what they'll offer for vegetarians is a black bean burger. Instead of having, I'm like, just have an Impossible burger on your, just make it easy, okay? But I mean, I think it's nice if they have like 1 vegetarian pasta dish, 1 vegetarian salad, or something that you can just throw out the bacon or whatever on, and then like 1 burger or sandwich item. If you had that on each menu, I think it would be completely fine. But whenever we go to restaurants and they have like some fancy-dancy black bean burger, I know I'm gonna hate it. I know it's gonna fall apart. It's not gonna sit together like a sandwich. Because like when I want a sandwich, I want a sandwich, you know? But where is the one place that we went that has really good black bean burgers? So I was like, okay, now that's a black bean burger. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But yeah, but I keep some in the fridge or in the freezer just in case I'm craving them every once in a while, because I do kind of miss the taste every once in a while, the old taste of them. But I don't, to me today, I would just rather eat like a meatless burger than anything else. All right, so I started Welcome to Plathville, season 3. The entire first episode, which I thought it was the first episode, but it wasn't really the first episode. It was just a recap of everything that's happened the last 2 seasons. And so now I'm completely caught up, and I'm halfway through the first episode, which is just more of the same. This family's nuts. But I forgot how much I really like it. Somebody is texting me, I can't see. And there's really nowhere to pull over. I'm gonna have to pull over here at the Flowing Well in Carmel. Okay. So Valerie, she said she's on her way. I said, well, I passed her place about 10 minutes ago, so I'm like, well, I'm 10 minutes ahead of you, Valerie, so there you go. Anyway, we'll probably still get there at the same time because I drive so damn slow. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more to say about Welcome to Plathville, because I just started the new season. Ethan and Olivia, like, I'm not that far into it, but like they start the show with like, he says he can't even talk about it or something, so I don't know if like they're having marital problems or what. But like they just seem so unhappy together, and they show a clip where he's like, I just don't understand why we have to be so different from each other. Well, that happens in relationships, you know? It's like, and especially when you get married so young at like 18 or 19. I mean, I can remember I had a friend of mine that got married at like 19 or 20, and I said something to my mom about it because we were going down there. She didn't have like a wedding or anything. I mean, she just got married, and she just was in love with this guy and whatever. And so I remember, like, my friends and I were going to go down there and visit her for a weekend. She lived in southern Indiana, and this was like a really good friend of mine back in the day in high school and stuff. And my mom was like, we were talking about it, and she was like, now how long has she been married? And I was like a week or two, and she was like, oh. And I remember my mom was like, that makes me kind of sad. And I was like, and I thought it was like, you know when you think your parents don't understand you at that time? And I was like, what do you think is sad about it? Why you gotta be so upset with somebody about getting married, you know? And my mom was like, that kind of makes me sad. And I said, what makes you sad about it? And she said, you changed so much from 18 to 25 that you're not even the same person, you know? And I remember she said that. They made it about 6 months and then got divorced, but I think it's so true, you know? I think we change all the time. Like, it was so weird because I was sitting in the car. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. You know, I talk about this a lot. Like, I don't, like, the physical aging for me, like, it doesn't bother me, but I think I'm kind of not aware of it sometimes, that it's occurring, you know? And I was sitting and I was leaning back in like my car like this, just like listening to music or something. And I like looked in the mirror, and it was like, I didn't have my sunglasses on. It was like full on sun. And I could see this line here and this line under here. And I kind of was like, I just like pulled my eyes up. You know how like people do it all the time? Like, this is what I would look like if I had a night job kind of thing, you know? Which I don't plan on doing, but I was like, and hey, more power to you if you want to do that. You know, my dad was a reconstructive surgeon, plastic surgeon. Like, I have no issues with people having plastic surgery or aesthetics or whatever. You do you. But for me, that's just something I don't want. Hell, I don't want to get any kind of surgery, let alone elective surgery. So, but I was just kind of looking at it, and I was like, I'm getting older. Like, I'm looking older. My hands are looking older. My hands are the one thing to me that is so weird, and people notice it a lot. Like, they'll say, your hands are really youthful. Like, my hands do still look really youthful, you know? And I know it's gonna catch up with me at some point, but like, I tan, obviously, y'all know that, okay? I get out in the sun, I get burnt, I get tan. And I'm like, I'm kind of surprised, like, that I don't have more wrinkles than I do. But I'm like, I don't know, I was just thinking about it the other day, and I was like, one day I'm gonna wake up, and it's like, I'm gonna have these, like, wrinkles all over. I don't know, it's weird, you know? I'm gonna be 50 next year. 50. I think I forget about that, like, on a daily basis, you know? It's like, it's surreal to me that I'm gonna be 50. And I don't know that I have an issue with turning 50, but it just, like, man, time seems to be going fast. It really does, you know? It's like, wow. Where'd it go? And you know, there are moments when I'm telling stories and whatever that it seems like just yesterday it was like I was in high school, or just yesterday I was getting sober and going, but it doesn't really. I mean, if I'm really like in the moment, you know, checking myself, like, it really does seem like it's been a long time. I mean, it seemed, me going to high school, it seems like it has been a long time since I was in high school. It seems like it has been a long time since I got sober. You know, my whole life that I had before I even met Tanya, you know, 24 years ago or whatever, like, that seems like a long time. It seems like even Tanya and I are friends that have gone back. I mean, you know, that was 10 years ago that Tanya and I were hanging out with people. Alex and I have been together 13 years. It seems like Alex and I have been together for a long time. You know, it's like, we have a friend of ours that just met in another city somebody that was the boyfriend of another friend of ours 13 years ago that Alex knew in college from before then, right? And it's like so weird that it's been like, well, it's almost been 14 years, you know? And it's like, but it does seem like it's been a really long time. I mean, I think in my head of what my husband looked like then, and Alex sent me this picture the other day, and I was like, oh my God, it doesn't even look like me. I mean, I had no beard. You know, I was 80 pounds thinner than I am now, if not 90, and I had brown hair, dark brown hair, and, you know, I didn't even really recognize myself for a minute, you know? So it's, yeah, it does seem like it's been a long time. I also think that when PP got sick, I started slowing things down, and I started really trying to live in the present and really appreciate each and every moment, you know, of him just running around in the backyard, and Boo and Tucker, you know, running after rabbits, and just, you know, spending time with Alex and Tanya and my friends and family, and just taking each precious moment, you know, not for granted, but like and being in each moment, really appreciating it. So I try to do that today, you know, and maybe I've slowed things down a little bit. Maybe that has been my answer to slowing things down. Maybe it seems like it's been so long because I have slowed things down a little bit and enjoying each moment and each day, you know. I don't know, but I do know this, that I want to listen to the Orange Tree now. I think I've decided to listen to the podcast instead of the book tonight. So I'm going to get off here now, and, somebody said I, like, got off of here, like, I hurried off of here, and I hadn't done that in a while the other day in a comment. I think it was yesterday they said that, or yesterday's or the day before's comment, or video they commented on, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but I do kind of rush off of here sometimes. Usually it's like if the battery is, like, dying, I'll try to be, like, to get everything out real quick, but all right. I think that's it for the day. I love you guys so much, and I appreciate you listening to my nonsensical rambling of stories and thoughts throughout the day, and it means a lot to me that I have someone to say it to that cares enough to listen. So I want to say I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and it really means a lot to me, and I love you guys. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you, and I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Wednesday. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!